Yeah, I'm a hard ass.
Hey, welcome everyone. Happy spring. Spring is here. We're actually, yeah, actually it was light driving here for a change. That was great. How many people hit traffic on the way here? Pretty much almost everyone. So Route 80, totally closed. How does that relate to the Morris Canal? Mining. New Jersey was a big iron ore mining, and they built the canal to transport iron ore, transport anthracite coal to support the iron industry, and that's why we have that big hole in the Route 80 is iron mines. Um, how many of you bought the new book, Disappearing Act by Bob Goller? All right. So we've been waiting, long anticipated book. And it is out. We have it for sale in our office. If you haven't purchased it yet after the presentation, it'll be available in the office. Then there's Mrs. Goller. Welcome. Thank you. Your husband is one of the premier Morris Canal historians. We all look up to him with great review. I certainly do. Oh, where's my notes? I put them down here. Okay, any new attendees? Anyone who's here for the first time? Hi, what's your name, sir? And how did you find out about us? Oh, great. Welcome. Someone else, you, sir? How did you learn about us? Oh, okay. Facebook. Great. Yeah, I do the Facebook. Anyone else? Newbie? Yes, sir. We never came to a program meeting. Wow, that's pretty amazing. Well, welcome everyone. Anyone else that I missed? Yes, sir. Don. Great. Well, glad to hear it. So welcome all. We've got lots of upcoming events, so many new events, so many upcoming events that it's mind-boggling. It's boggling my mind since I'm involved with them, but let me go through them. We are coming into event season. So for anyone who is kind of new to the Morris Canal and you want to learn about the history of it, I'm doing a lecture at Lincoln Park Library next Tuesday, March 25th, 6:30, History of the Morris Canal. You're going to be there? Okay, look forward to seeing you. If you want to find out about Booton, Joe is doing a Booton historical walk Sunday, April 6th. Great hike, lots of stuff in Booton, a lot of historical artifacts and information. Those are really good. April 13th. Now, we are not, as many people think, the Morris Canal Society. We are the Canal Society of New Jersey, which means we're involved with both canals, Morris and the DNR. So to that end, Joe and I have been doing a DNR canal series at McCullough Hall in Morristown. In March, he did one in the history of the DNR. On April 13th, I'm going to be doing one on the DNR Canal Greenway, meaning what's there today, what can you see, what can you do, what are some of the projects that are ongoing. This is a brand new one. In fact, I was working on it today before I came here. So this has never been done before. So if you want to learn, if you've been up and down the Morris Canal Greenway, but said, hey, I want to visit that other canal, this is a good opportunity to find out what you can see. April 25th, Friday, Powerville, Griffith Park. We have a sign dedication. Now, that's kind of a funny story. We put up the sign kiosk, and we were just about ready to install the sign, put it up, and got a really bad wind and blew it over and broke it. But it's been fixed, and we're having a sign dedication. May 3rd, Saturday, we have another sign dedication, Ledgewood. Ledgewood Plain 2 East, one of the best preserved inclined plains on the Morris Canal Greenway. We're unveiling signage there. We definitely need a signage. Come out for that. That's May 3rd. That's also Morris Canal, Morris County Pathways to History. That's a weekend where all kinds of historical sites are open. for you to visit. And on Sunday, May 4th, we will be at UFO's Park, Lock 2 East, only completely restored lock and plane tender and lock tender's house on the Morris Canal Greenway. Now, we did this 2 years ago. Difference is this year, the tender's house is going to be open. Last year, we furnished it. We have all kinds of great antique furnishings in there. If you missed, we had it open for Morris Canal Day last year. If you missed it, now you can actually go into the tender's house and see it. May 4th, our next and last program meeting before the summer season, May 16th. Yes, sir, do you have a? Yes. Yeah, it's about, I don't know, 2/3 of a mile, something like that. May 16th, that's our next program meeting, our last program meeting. We don't have a speaker yet, so I can't tell you anything about that. Day after Saturday, May 17th, Lake Hopatcong Block Party, big event in Lake Hopatcong. The Canal Society is going to be there. Also, the museum's going to be open. They have a really good Morris Canal exhibit there. So that's a really fun event. Sunday, June 8th, our volunteer luncheon at Waterloo Village. If you are a volunteer or interested in becoming a volunteer, we do need volunteers, especially for the Waterloo season. Come out to this lunch June 8th at Waterloo Village. And then June 21st, that's our big Waterloo Canal Day, our biggest event of the year. We have building tours, we have music, we have artisans, we have boat rides. Big day. Don't want to miss that. If you've never been to it before, it's great. And that starts out our summer season where we're open every Saturday through October during the summer. And that's where we really need volunteers to help out on those days. August 23rd, Morris Canal Day. That's the other big Canal Day event that we're very involved with. That's a big event too in Morton. And then we have just a whole bunch of autumn events in addition to that. We don't have all the dates, so I'll just read them off. Booton Day, Old Sucker Sunny Day, Morristown Fall Festival, and I hear there's a second Pathways to History they're going to have in the fall. So we'll be back at UFO's Park. And then Canal Seneca Chief, which is a boat on Erie, they're going to bring that down to New York City. So we're going to see something with that, do something with that. And then October 5th, that's our end of the season luncheon for all volunteers. So pretty busy slate we have coming up. Any questions about events? Okay. Logistics. Oh, yes, Bobby. Bobby, by the way, is Bobby Egan. She's our volunteer coordinator. June 8th, right? Yeah. Okay, so if you have any interest in volunteering, please sign up. We definitely need more volunteers. Yes. Yes, that's Rich Richter is our museum director, so he never.
Down the stairs.
Yeah, and then Lou works at the grist mill, which, a lot of stairs. We need two people in the grist mill for each floor. Okay, before I introduce our main speaker, which is our president, Joe Macasek. That's why I'm doing the intro, by the way, since he's speaking, so he doesn't have to introduce himself. Logistically, as we always say at each meeting, once the meeting's over, once the talk's over, please vacate this room because the cleaning crew wants to come in and we want to get everything back. But please come over to our office. It will be open. We'll have the Bob Gollard books for sale, and whatever food's left over will be in the office. You can help yourself. But please go over the app, please. Okay, Iron Highlands. So there's a few other books that are for sale on the sales table. Yeah, Iron on the Route 80. Okay. So our speaker tonight, President of the Canal Society, Joe Macasek, to my right. He's doing a presentation on the Morris Canal extension from Newark to Hudson River. So big round of applause to the head guy, Joe Macasek.
Thank you, Tim. Okay, good to see you all today. Thanks for braving the traffic. We're often here talking about locks and inclined planes and all kinds of other canal stuff. We very seldom talk about the eastern end of the canal. You might think the business end of the canal, and the canal company at the time, they were making lots of decisions about how they were going to get there. So this talk is going to be talking about that, about some of the politics and some of the situations that were going on with the canal at the time. And then we're going to take a tour of the canal through Jersey City and then see kind of where that all is today. So, okay, is this going to cooperate? Here we go. All right, so here is the canal. Our last meeting, John Preitow talked about the canal in Newark coming down to the Passaic River in Newark. In the early 1800s, the canal was chartered in 1824. By 1826, they were in construction, but they really hadn't decided where it was going to go, where it was going to end. And so for a long time, it ended in Newark at the Passaic River. And so we'll talk about how that was. Can you hear me now? Okay. Yell if I drop the mic. Okay, so the canal was eventually extended 11.5 miles from Newark through Newark, through Kearney, through to Jersey City, and then eventually to the harbor at Jersey City here, involving 7 locks to accomplish that, and a lot of geography and a lot of issues. Got too many things in my hands here. Okay. You have to remember that it was the Morris Canal and Banking Company. In those days, the state of New Jersey was not investing in internal improvements. They would give you a charter for your road or your bridge or your canal and say, go to it, guys. And so this was private capital. People were building public utilities and taking the risk that they would make a profit. And so in those days, you would be given, thrown a bone, so to speak. They would give you a monopoly or banking privileges to try to make sure that you would succeed. And so the Morris Canal and Banking Company was gave the company not only it was not only a transportation company, but also they had banking privileges, which means they actually printed their own money. You can see some script there on the side, and they could also they could engage in financial transactions. And so this was an issue that sometimes got them into trouble. So funding what they were doing. They had sold stock and they were funded, but by the time they were halfway into the construction, 1829, they had borrowed money from the Bank of New York. And so by 1829, they needed to refinance. In order to settle that, they had to reach out to a bank in Holland to actually borrow $750,000 in order to move forward. And again, when they were considering to extending the canal to Jersey City, they needed to borrow more money. So they were always a little bit behind in financing what they were doing. And also, since they had banking privileges, they were also doing some things that they shouldn't have been doing. They were getting involved. The finance committee of the canal company was actually getting involved with the Wall Street Investment Company and loaning them stock certificates, and they were being used as collateral in some fraudulent dealings. And so that didn't. What a surprise! Yes. And so this eventually came to light. There was a huge scandal. There was legal action. And so Mr. Walter Colden, who was the chairman of the New York State Senate Judicial Committee, used his influence to sort of make this go away. Well, Mr. Colden, also happened to be the legal counsel for the plaintiffs and probably had money in the scheme. So he bailed himself out beside the canal company. Big surprise. Well, the canal company needed something to solid up their reputation. And so Mr. Colden was a very influential New York banker and lawyer and politician. And so he became president of the canal company. He was well acquainted with the folks that built the Erie Canal, and he was a big fan of internal improvements, and he was the one who convinced the canal company that they had to go the extra step, that ending the canal on the Passaic River was not going to work out. They had to be at the New York Harbor. This is a map of the canal in 1823, and as you can see, there's many routes planned here. And one of them is to Patterson, and they were going to end the canal at Aquaconac, that's Passaic, or maybe in Newark, or maybe halfway in between. They really could not decide what they needed to do. So Mr. Colden decided that they had to get their act together and they had to come up with a plan. So they hired Ephraim Beach, who was a noted engineer at the time. And so he did a survey and he discovered that, yes, it could be done. He had some reservations. The soils weren't very good. It was going to be difficult building the prism of the canal, and they had to deal with the geography. They had to cross two rivers. They had to cross swampy ground, and they had to get through the Palisades escarpment that extended all the way down into where Jersey City is now. This is a wonderful map from the 1830s of, well, this is Jersey City. This is Bayonne here. Here's Jersey City, and here's the route of the canal. But here is the escarpment that sort of is a barrier. And so the canal had to come down one side of the peninsula. And fortunately, there's a gap in the hills right here. You can see there's some contour marks here and some contour marks here. Well, there's a break in the hills right there, and the canal was able to cross the peninsula to the east side and then come straight up to Paulus and Hook, which is now lower Jersey City. And you can see all the meadowlands, the swamplands, a few roads, a few villages. What we know of as Jersey City and Bayonne was really a very rural situation. Well, there we go. The picture on the left is Paulus and Hook, just a rocky peninsula that stuck out into the Hudson River, barely connect to the mainland by salt marsh. And so this is, well, the whole situation with trying to get to the Hudson River is rather complicated. Mother Nature is not very kind. It gave us one of the world's best harbors, but getting at it from the west, from the great hinterland, is pretty difficult. There are basalt ridges and the Palisades and two major rivers dumping water into the middle, which makes a huge amount of marshland, which makes getting from the west to the harbor a very difficult situation. And then the shoreline itself, this below the Palisades uplift, there's very little territory. There's not a lot of land there, and some of it is salt marsh and not very useful. And so, although it was a great harbor and very good to the state of New York, it's very unfair to Jersey City. So how are people going to get to that great harbor? They were going to have to, and when they get there, how are they going to deal with it? How are they going to find a sturdy place to build a city and to end a canal? And so by the 1840s, they had turned Paulus and Hook at least into something that represented a town. And of course, the blue line is the route of the canal that will talk more about it as we go along. Eventually finding its place here on the edge of this piece of land, greatly filled and greatly altered for to make it habitable. Okay, so there's a picture of the Palisades. Much further up, it's a very precipitous cliff, and as you move south, that cliff is not quite so troublesome, but it's still there, and it does separate the water from the hinterland beyond, and it forces you, if you want to get through, bringing your canal and your railroads later into this peninsula, and you need to get into the harbor here. But in order to do that, you have to deal with this cliff, and some of that is still there. Railroads eventually bored through it, but Mr. Beach had to do a route around. You can see how close this is to the water. There just wasn't a lot of land there. And in order to make the canal's route work, it was in many cases right along the shoreline. Okay, these are the kind of folks that built the canal. They were called navvies, and so that was a group of workmen who were especially skilled at this kind of work. Digging a canal with wheelbarrows and shovels might sound like just a pretty brainless job, but unless it's done efficiently, it really doesn't work. And so with canals being built and railroads after that, there developed a whole class of workmen who specialize in this kind of work. And there's a picture of such fellows. The term navvy is really an English term, and so they were way ahead of us with working on projects like that. And up in the other corner there is an accounting for construction on the route to Jersey City in 1837, and the bill comes to $2,344 for a heck of a lot of work. That's a very interesting document. Sorry, can't read it. Can't read it. Okay, we're going to take a trip, and it's going to be similar to these fellows here. Just sort of skipping the story along. Many years later, when the canal was finally being abandoned, it took them a long time to get this done. Everybody who was involved had their finger in the pot. The canal company still existed. The canal itself was leased to the Lehigh Valley Railroad. And the state of New Jersey was involved because they were very interested in the water rights that the canal owned. And all of those people squabbled for years. And so in 1913, yet they kept petitioning the legislature for permission to abandon the canal and divide up the pieces, but they couldn't decide who was going to get the pieces. So in 1913, they came up with yet another plan, and they appointed a committee, and the committee decided they were going to take a tour. So this is the committee, and they're all aboard a work scow, and they're about to take a tour through Jersey City. Okay, for the sake of truth in advertising, they actually started at the other end of the canal, but for this story, we're going to start on the east, on the west, and go east. So, just so you know. Okay. Still in Newark, progressing from where the canal originally ended in Newark. The canal extended across open farmland to the last of the lift locks, lift lock number 19 in the Meadowlands. And so there's only this one lone picture of this lock. This was not one that got a lot of attention, but it did raise and lower the boats about 10 feet. And so that drawing is in our archives, and that's a very rare drawing of the lock. And so you can see that this is truly a picture of it. The only picture we've got, there's a railroad, raised railroad bed going in front of the picture, and then there's the lock underneath. So that lowered canal boats down basically to tidewater. Okay, you challenged me to ask. It is the Waverly and Passaic branch of the I've covered it up, the Something Bay Railroad. This is the Mueller Atlas sheet from 1912, and this kind of shows you where we're talking about. And even at that late date, you can see that this area is still populated here. Many industries are moving in. Many railroads have been built to access those industries, but still it's mostly open land. And here's the canal coming through. Here's Lock 19, lowering the boats down to tidewater. So you've got a short section of tidewater canal leading to tide lock 20, Lock 20. So instead of dealing with altitude change and inclined planes and all those kinds of interesting things, here they had to deal with a 5-foot tide level. So that must have been rather complicated. They did build tide locks so that water could be saved in the canal and boats could be lowered or raised to meet whatever the level of the water was in the river or in the harbor. But it certainly must have been a bit complicated. So, and this is the Newark Plank Road, which we're going to see. This is the original transportation route across the meadows that led to Jersey City. So, and there's a picture of the Passaic River Bridge, and there's another map from our collection of Lock 20, and it shows the Plank Road here, and it shows that the lock was connected by towpath to the bridge. This is rather confusing. You wonder, well, how did those canal boats manage to cross those rivers? There is something that there are things in the archives, in the documents about rope ferries and about tug ferries, and so, but those are not really documented in any way, except for one sign you're going to see a little later. So apparently there were bridges across those rivers, and the Plank Road built before the canal, and they were there, and there seems like that they had towpath bridges and associated, cantilever off to the side that allowed the mules to walk across and pull the boats across the rivers. And you can see that documented on the map there. Okay, and so in order to maintain a passage across those rivers, they are pretty feisty rivers, and they needed to be dredged. And this is actually a document in our collection from 1860, and it's for 5 days of dredging and moving the machine. So you can see the charges. It's all annotated out, and the charge was $245 for all that work. Okay. With great difficulty. I assume that they had, basically a shovel sort of operation on a barge. And so those rivers are not deep, but they are feisty, and you can't count on Mother Nature to keep a path open for you. So that channel across those rivers needed to be cleared occasionally. And so that was, quite a bit of work to keep that that channel available. And so the whole idea about plank roads is kind of interesting. So I did some research upon that. The route from Newark to Jersey City is kind of across low marshy land, and that's really not very hospitable for a dirt road. And so in 1849, the Plank Road was chartered, and so it's basically a road constructed with heavy wooden planks, which makes it very good. Very boardwalk. That's a heck of a lot of pieces of wood, but it did provide a smooth, a somewhat smooth and reliable transportation system. So this was only one of many plank roads that were constructed in this area to accommodate traffic. Yep.
When I was a kid, there was Patterson Plank Road.
Okay.
Saw it.
So it's a matter of thanks, but no planks. Yes. No, that was, you know, great. Whoa, okay. And how long ago was that, sir?
Long time.
A long time. Okay, we won't press you on that issue.
Probably 1956, and there were still a few planks left on the road.
Cool. Okay.
Not a lot, but there were areas.
Yes.
Still had planks.
This is one of those things that those that name floats around. It's still attached to, thoroughfares, and you wonder, what do they think? Where are the planks? So anyway, there's an actual picture of the plank road. And see, there's actually a vehicle moving down there, and there's the canal running right next to it. So anyway, this is the Hackensack River Bridge, again, connecting the plank road. And so with many spans across, and this is the tide lock on the other side. And it too has its connecting bridge, towpath bridge, so the mules can use the bridge to cross and then come back to the lock site and continue to tow the boats across the route of the canal through Jersey City. Okay, whoops, too many. There we go. This is Tide Lock 21. And this is a bit of a conundrum because that sign up here in the corner reads, "Captains are forbidden to tow their boats out into the river until taken charge by the ferryman." So penalty, $2. That's 2 days payback on those days. So I don't know if that's an old sign or but it applies to a particular situation with certain boats. I don't know. So more research needs to be done. So this is the tide lock on the Jersey City side. The boats are now entering Jersey City territory. And once again, this is adjusting the level of the river, wherever it might be with high or low tide, to the level of the canal that would pass around Jersey City. Now, that route of the canal was a bit troublesome as well because it really had no feeder. It really was filled with tide water. So the water would be let into the canal at high tide, and then these gates would hold it as well as it could. And so that always did, I imagine that always didn't work really well since tides are very variable. And so not a lot of literature that explains actually how that happens beyond theory. Okay, there is one of the tide locks. You're looking across that. That's lock 21 again, looking out across the river, and those mechanisms to raise and lower. That's a drop gate. Okay, moving along south, along the Hackensack River. This is the first bridge that you come through, and this is the foot of Danforth Street. And this is especially my favorite bridge because this bridge across the canal is one of those rolling lift bridges that raised and lowered so that boats could come through. And this is the M.W. Kellogg pipe foundry plant. So my first paying job was at the M.W. Kellogg. As a little kid, they let me keep the books in the machine shop. So I learned how to smoke and swear. A little further along the canal, passing right near the shore, goes right by the Newark Bay Hotel, Bath House, and Dance Hall. And you can see it. These are all maps that we have in our collection, and they show great details. Some of them are weir maps, and some are built for or were made for some specific connection. This one is a weir map 54. I have no idea what a typical combination might be. The dear citizens of Jersey City needed their recreation. And so in the next slide, this is looking back up the canal, and that facility is right there, such as you can see. So it was on the river. The river was a bit cleaner then, or nobody cared much, but it was a place to stay, a place for a little recreation, a bit of hokey pokey on a Friday night. And so, gee, has the world changed today? Okay. Moving a little bit further along, you can see that I seriously meant about the canal very often hugged the shore. So in this particular case, the towpath of the canal was the shore of the Hackensack River. This is just a little bit further down. The hotel and bathhouse are just up there, and the canal is making a big bend around and about to head east. Sir.
Did they actually extend, did they build it into the river, do you know, or was it actually cut into the land? Because that looks like it may have just built a berm.
I believe that's what they did. Eventually, that became land on the towpath side. They kept filling in and filling in and filling in. That the M.W. Kellogg plant was totally built on fill. The canal was there providing a transportation system, and it was what's the right term? You could buy land under the water and fill it in. Okay, a little further down, when you come to the Bayonne line, there is that break in the hills, and so the basalt ridge of the Palisades begins to break up into a series of hills, and that provides a ravine that Mr. Beach identified as his way to get through. And it was a long bend around, a lot of unnecessary mileage, but required in order to be able to go from one side of the peninsula to the other. So you can see the bend from the river. This is looking the other way. The photographer is on the Hudson Boulevard Bridge, and there's the Hudson Boulevard Bridge up there. And so there's the Hudson Boulevard Bridge, and there's a work scow with its captain and mule tender and mule team posing for a picture. People just love to pose for pictures. They have no cell phones, I guess, so what can they do? That bridge was especially heavily built because the trolley went across it. There we go. And so further along, down into, this is the continuing boundary between Jersey City and Bayonne. This is the Fiddler's Elbow. This is that very, very sharp bend where the canal is heading southeast, and then suddenly being able to get around the end of those hills and to head due north. So this is the renowned Fiddler's Elbow. There are many pictures that people suppose is the Fiddler's Elbow, but this is the actual one. So you can see it's extensively wide open marshland. This is all under highways, projects, industrial buildings. It's completely altered. Sir. Yes. I'm not sure about that. I would suspect that the canal being there was used as to create the boundary line. I don't believe Bayonne was not a town yet. Okay, heading north, it's a narrow stretch between the remains of those hills and Communipaw Cove. And this is also a route that many railroads needed to take in order to reach the terminal facilities that were stretching continuously along the shore. Everybody wanted a piece of the shoreline, and it was only just so much shoreline to be had. And so many railroads needed to pass through this area, and to do that, they had to deal with the canal that was already there. So this is the bridge over the New York Bay Railroad, and you can see it's a very high trestle. And this is from a series of pictures that were taken by the Lehigh Valley Railroad. And this is their guy who's going along with the photographer as he takes his pictures. Good question. No idea. Obviously, they didn't. These pictures were all taken in the early 1920s. And so at this point, obviously the canal was not, was hardly usable. And so you can basically say that safely by, no, there's no way to get through there. They've built this bridge in such a way that it suits the railroad's needs, but certainly not the canal. You can send your boat gliding through there, and there might be a way to pass the mules through there, and they did pole the boats in many places, but it would be a great disadvantage. And this is the canal, once again, dealing with the Lehigh Valley Railroad, and you can see they have left some room there, but not much. And there's a steel structure overhead for the Lehigh Valley. The railroads, this is interesting because you have three railroads. There's one here, one overhead, and one behind the man. And it's all in the low-lying area that slopes down to what used to be Communipaw Cove. And it's gradually being filled in. And above, just beyond, through the steelwork, you can see the higher ground. That's the buildings that are along Garfield Avenue. Anybody from Jersey City here? Anybody who knows Jersey City? Couple of hands. Then, well, we're the only one who knows where Garfield Avenue is, I guess. I assume that it is. That's a great magical mystery tour, taking these pictures and trying to find out what's actually still there. It's so greatly changed. And of course, now the interstate highway goes through there. And so, and Communipaw is completely filled in. And so it would be quite an adventure to try to locate some of these things. This is a stretch of canal that looks very, very dejected. And so, again, this is along the same route, the same area. Believe this is looking south, and you've got railroad workings up here, some canal, a dump car, and some coal pockets. And on the other side, this is what used to be Communipaw Cove. It's being filled in. It no longer exists, and you can see it's being filled in. There's even a truck here dumping more stuff, and this is all garbage from New York. And so basically Liberty State Park is all that. Most of Liberty State Park was underwater, was water, it was a cove, and it's now filled in, built on trash. Actually, there is a whole line of canal boats across there that they took and sunk in a line as a breakwater and then filled in beyond them. We'll bring you a shovel. You can dig here. Okay. Okay, well, once again, we'll give you a shovel. That Liberty State Park is involved in great controversy. It's one of the few open spaces left in New Jersey and in Jersey City, and lots of people want a piece of it. It's great open space. People love it as open space. Other people want to make it golf courses and casinos and shopping centers and sports arenas, and the controversy goes on. But all of it would be on fill, which I'm sure that they would find all those tires under there. This is a stretch that's leading up toward the Communipaw Avenue Bridge. Communipaw Avenue stretches all the way across Jersey City from where we started at Tide Lock 21, up and over the hump, over the peninsula and down the other side, and crosses the canal once again, right here, and heads down to where the little village of Communipaw used to be, right at the edge of the cove that now no longer exists. Okay, for a little further along is a stretch of the canal, and our committee people are still on their barge, and here's the tow rope, and here's the mule team and the mule tender, and he's pulling them past the Whitlock Cordage company, and that's their powerhouse there. Yes.
Dug out a bridge that was over the canal and was completely buried at one point. And I wonder, I forget which one, but it's gone now. If they could preserve it, the railroad on the land or something.
Hmm.
Bridge, no?
I don't remember that. I remember the tour, but I don't remember the bridge. It's probably in our archives someplace. Yes. We do have a book from that tour. I'll have to look and see if that's mentioned. Okay, moving along, here's our committee again, pausing for a picture. I especially like this particular dude with his looking very, very, yes, very dapper. So stopping to get their picture taken once again, but right, and there's another one of those rolling lift bridges. That might be one of the ones that,
Single span bascule with a counterweight on an incline track.
okay. Okay. There we go. Coming near to the end, this is definitely, we're near the terminus of the canal, and it's coming along the edge of what's left of the Communipaw Cove, and this is the large basin of the canal, and it's making a big bend going under the Ward Street Bridge, and this is a dock for the Farmers Milk Company right along the edge of the canal, and the picture is taken from the roof of the M&H Sugar Refinery, and their buildings were just to the east of the little basin, and they actually surrounded the last Block 22, and they were in great contention with the canal. Everybody, now, Jersey City had grown. The canal was no longer in great favor. Railroads were invading the city from every direction, and the city fathers had great ambitions about where their streets should go. And the sugar company was very covetous of their property and had no room to expand, and desperately wanted to maintain their access to the water. There we go. So it's became the American Sugar Refining Company, and there's some pictures of it, and it did maintain access to the large basin. The canal company's land is over here, and there's an illustration of the company. They really, really needed to be able to get water transportation to bring the raw sugar to their plant, and so they were always suing and resuing and arguing with the canal company because the canal company wanted more space for their business, and the sugar company needed more space, and they kept getting in each other's way. So there is the last lock, tide lock 22. And so that's suggesting the level of the canal boats from the water-filled canal that's going around the edge of Jersey City to wherever the tide is at that present time. And so the lock is actually completely enclosed by buildings from the sugar company. And there's even a bridge across from one side to the other. And there's a boat coming out the other side into the little basin. And so these two buildings here and here still exist, and they are now luxury condominiums. That was that was behind that way and a little bit north. So. Okay, and there's that same boat with the captain standing at the prow and the mule tender standing behind, and they are obviously waiting their turn to pull the boat over to the other side of the slip and and get them and get unloaded. Okay, and there's our committee at the end of the line posing for yet another picture. And there's the sugar company buildings on either side and their covered walkway across. So it took them half a day to make that trip. And one of those fellows made a nice report of their trip. And so that's going to be the next insert in the On the Level. With all of the experiences, the things that they saw all along this trip. Okay, so of course, the canal was abandoned and the property was divided up. And eventually the little basin survived. And in the 1970s, it was the Green Street Boat Club. And you can date it by the towers in the background. And you can see it's a very motley collection of boats and shacks. And so it was actually state property then. And so they eventually were evicted. And now this area has been completely changed. This is it today. A boardwalk, luxury apartments on one side. The basin itself is still extant. Parkland on the other side, and with a beautiful view of the Manhattan skyline beyond. And so from being a hugely industrial railroad terminal industrial location, you can see this map from the set from the 1918, I believe it's the same Mueller Atlas. And so here is the canal, here is the little basin, here's what's left of the big basin and the tide water channel that they was required to leave in between. The Central Railroad of New Jersey has completely filled in the cove here with this huge facility. This is the Central Railroad Station that still is extant today in Liberty State Park, and their huge train shed behind, and this huge complex of tracks. And of course, the gray is the Lehigh Valley Railroad. And they were, of course, one of the partners in this story. They were the lessees of the Morris Canal, and that's what they wanted. They desperately wanted this space at the harbor. And so they got to fill in this piece of the big basin with their piers going out. It's only a thin, long strip, but real estate was such short supply that it was incredibly valuable. And so in the abandonment of the canal that they had leased for all these years, this is one of the pieces they really, really wanted and fought for in the end. And so here's the area today. As you can see, it's no longer an industrialized zone. We've got huge skyscraper buildings. We've got hotels. We've got luxury condominiums, and we've got parkland here. How many people have visited here? So it's completely reinvented itself from being you saw the map and you saw what this area used to be. And so this is what you see there today. And so just a few ending things. An artist, a local artist, August Will, painted scenes of Jersey City and the canal, and his pictures are still in the Jersey City Art Museum collection. And here's some of the paintings there. And here he's got some people hauling a small boat along the canal with the city in the background, canal boats passing through, an industrial scene all the way across the bottom. And our collection is full of interesting information that is where this presentation come from. We have contracts and maps, diagrams, all kinds of interesting things that if you have any other interest in this subject, talk to our archivist, John Prito, about investigating some of the wonderful things that we have. We've also got some maps and walking tours on our website, And I think this one is pretty much up to date, but we're working with people who are now extending the Greenway through Jersey City. And so these are on our, if you haven't been there and you want to go and have a walk and investigate this area, you can walk the canal, you can investigate Liberty State Park, and you can also walk along the river, the Hudson River front walkway. So many interesting walking experiences. It is still there. There was a huge Colgate Palmolive. I don't know. I suspect that our former board member, Bob Barth, who was employed at the Colgate plant as a property manager, I believe, when they finally tore down that facility completely, they left the clock. And so he, for years, maintained the clock. So I'm not sure that that's still a job, but I know he's not involved in that anymore, but the clock is still there. Yes, how about that? Thoughts or questions, folks?
One guy dripping a car. Dead end. His car, so we looked.
This area has changed. There are plenty of apartments that I couldn't afford to live in here. Thoughts or questions, folks?
Just a note, from where it says the Colgate clock there, you can walk all the way to Hoboken train
Yes.
station.
Yes.
The river. It's a very nice walk. You can actually take the train to Hoboken and walk all the way down here.
There are actually about 6 walking experiences that are being planned for Jersey City. And our Morris Canal Greenway is sort of a core to that project, and they go along the Hudson and along the Hackensack River and make many interesting combinations in between. And one of our Steve Kinski is working on getting all of that on all trails on your phone and keeping us involved in the planning for all those activities. So yes, there are many interesting activities, and we're planning a walk from here over probably as far as well, anyway, the next park over. His name I can't remember. Other thoughts or questions, folks? Sir. Yes.
Twice. It was the same level, so boats must be waiting half a day for the level of water the beginning, right?
When the tide was high, they would let water into the canal and capture it there. So you've got a 5-mile long loop around Jersey City held in by 2 gates on either side. And it passed, it was a little more complicated than that, but basically that's the way it was supposed to work. Now, you come to a lock, and the lock raises or lowers your boat to let you proceed on. If you want to lock into the canal to go west toward Phillipsburg, you might be at low tide, and the lock would raise your boat up to the level of water in the canal. You would proceed all the way around Jersey City, and then another tide lock would adjust you to the level in the Hackensack River. In theory, that's the way it was supposed to work, but I'm sure that it was much more complicated than that. Sir.
Can you explain why they felt that they had to go across where they did and not come down the Passaic River and across there? Because that it looked like it would have been much less work. Go back to your first
Yes.
map, you could, what would you show the Passaic River?
The
What was the big,
it was the first workable opportunity for them to cross from one side to the other. If you drive that route today, there are still exposed rock cliffs that were very difficult for them. Yes. Mhm.
seemed to be much easier to come down the Passaic River
Yes,
and across Newark Bay lower. You know,
yes. No, they did not want to do that. They didn't want to go any longer. It was also a matter of keeping that canal filled with water. And, the longer it was, the more problem that was going to be. And they wanted to make that loop as short as possible. And that was the first doable opportunity. It was a ravine that allowed them to pass through with minimal of earth moving and go from one side of the peninsula to the other. Sir, they did. It was a picture in the, can I go all the way back to the beginning real fast? Here we go. Yes. That theory of filling the canal with tide water at high tide was a nice idea, but it didn't always work. And so they built this pump house on the western end adjacent to Tide Lock 21, and that actually pumped water up into the round Jersey City route of the canal. Other thoughts or questions, folks? Okay,
Can you read this?
no.
Okay. From Ron Rice.
Oh,
give the mic.
The question from Ron Rice, did the CSNJ get the wear maps from New Jersey State Archives? And when will they be available online, please? And then there's another question.
okay. We actually have an original ink on vellum weir map of Jersey City. Jim Lee III has it right now, and he's having it scanned, and we'll have it back soon. As to when we will have that collection online, it will be eventually online, but it'll be a while until our new website. We're having a whole new website done, folks. It's going to be really nice, and it's going to make that kind of thing available. We're now working with the state archives to scan their weir maps, map collection, and drawings. And so we've got, I think we're into 3 phases with them. It's a slow process, and all this work is being done by the Athenaeum in Philadelphia with a huge flatbed scanner. And so eventually that material will be available as soon as the electronics are up to making that so.
His second question, where do the weir maps end in the east, the Passaic River or up to Jersey City, since the LVRR kept ownership of the Eastlands?
Okay, that's a good question, because the official list of weir maps stops in Newark. And so it doesn't show up on the official documents that we have. It does show up in the list of documents that the state archives has. It just so happens that we own, rolled up in the corner of our archives for many years was a roll, and in that roll was this huge original weir map of the map from Newark to Jersey City. And so we don't have it in our possession now. It's being scanned, so we'll get it back soon and share that with you. The Athenaeum in Jersey City, not in Jersey City, in Philadelphia, and they are renowned for their fine workmanship. I can't quote you that. It's really, well, the weir maps are sometimes, 9 or 10 feet long. And so they do them in 2 pieces. But they've got a very big, one of the biggest scanners that they make. I don't know exact measurement. Yeah, Beers is saying that we went to the Athenaeum once on an SIA, the Society for Industrial Archaeology trip, and we experienced their skills. Bill.
You showed several views of the rolling counterweight bridges. There is one such bridge that survives in New Jersey with a road over it for pleasure boats to go underneath, and that is the Glimmerglass Bridge in Brielle. Another item, I have a theory on the row of canal boats that was, where they filled in for Liberty State Park.
Yes.
That was to corral the garbage until it sank and it didn't get away.
Oh dear. Yes, that's quite an explanation, but I'm sure I'm sure that is a true fact. They all of New York's garbage contributed to building Jersey City. Ton after ton after ton. So, and they needed something to keep it there. All right. Any more questions, folks? Thank you very much.